Hey, what's up, everybody? Championship Leadership Podcast here today. I'm excited. We got Zach Hughes. He is a former U.S. Army Green Beret, co-founder of Operators Association, and also the COO of Elite Meat. And so thank you so much, Zach, man, for taking some time to join us here today.
Absolutely, Coach. I think I've been looking through your podcast. I love it. Such an honor to be on.
Yeah. So the first question I always love to ask is the name of the podcast, Championship Leadership, and it's kind of a unique name. A friend of mine actually recommended it, and at first I wasn't sure. It just, Championship Leadership. It didn't roll off my tongue at first, but I've grown to like it definitely. And so I just like to hear from my guests, like, when you hear that, what does it mean to you? What do you think of when you think of a championship leadership?
I think when I think of the words championship and leadership together, I think of a competition. Immediately, that's exactly where I defer to. So not only is leadership something that's important because you need to have A, great leaders, and then B, you need to be a great leader, but also you need to be constantly competing. So if you're in a championship of that, it's at the highest stakes possible. That's immediately what my mind deters to when I see the words championship and leadership together, is that you're competing at the highest level and you've got to be the best that you can be at being a leader.
Yeah, that's I love it. And especially as a Green Beret, I would imagine that rings true. I mean, that's what special operators, Green Berets are all about, right? I mean, it's the best of the best. It's the highest level. That's exactly how you guys are trained, taught, educated, and that's exactly what you do. And do you see that carrying on into all other areas of life for yourself?
I do. I think that because when you become a Green Beret, you become a Navy SEAL, any derivative of special operations, when you get on a team, everything is a competition. And it's a competitive nature in general, but it's because for positive reasons. I think competition breeds success, and you're inherently going to do better at what you're doing if you're competing, even in training, even in eating, even in talking, even in your vocabulary, anything about it. If you're in a competition, you're more laser focused. So I think that specifically is something that keys up individuals that have gone through a lifelong journey or a few years of highly intense competition. You can understand that as you pivot out from that, there's so many other bleed overs in life that you just want to continue to do that. And if it's always a competition with you, then you're going to be excelling at everything you do.
Yeah. Tell the listeners here just maybe a little bit about your story, your path. You know, what led you to join the military, to become a Green Beret, and even up until, recently, I believe just in the past year, you've made that transition out of the Army, and now you CEO of Elite Meat, also the co-founding the Operators Association that has really taken off and really kind of taking on other young individuals that want to come into special operations, right? And really just, there's nothing else like out there to help them, to guide them, to mentor them, to really answer the questions of what this would really truly look like. So yeah, what was that path for you? Like, how start from wherever you want to, and just give us a little insight into who you are and the path that got you here to where you are today.
Sure. I think that every Green Beret I've ever met has a completely unique story, and it's so interesting. Mine was very different than almost everyone on my team and everyone that I went through the course with. So I grew up in Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Went to high school there. 9/11 happened when I was in 10th grade. It was a profound moment for me. I knew at that point that I wanted to go join the Army. I had a grandfather that was in World War II in the Army. I had two uncles that were in Vietnam in the Army. And I honestly, I grew up idolizing these individuals. I just thought it was the most epic thing. They went and they served our country at the highest level that they could and really got after it. And luckily returned back without passing away in Vietnam. So I was super fired up about it. And then as I became a senior, my parents were like, hey, dude, you have to go to college first before you can do this. And I struggled with that. And I didn't want to do it. And I fought it tooth and nail. I actually joined the Army behind their back and then was in the program where you wait to leave. And then I was like, no, this is probably not how I want to go. I don't want to, this is almost like shunning. And I'm kind of like failing on my way into doing something great. So I told the recruiters, never mind, I'm going to go to college. So I went to college, and it's so funny to me because when I was in college, I didn't see it as like, I'm a college student going to college. I see it as like, this is an obstacle I have to complete so that I can go be in the military. Yeah. Like, this is absolutely my mindset through the entire thing. And it's so clear to me. I can see it now because the degree that I chose was as cool guy degree I could find on this list of degrees. And that was criminal justice. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to go to college, I'm not going to do marketing or business. I'm going to do criminal justice because I don't know. That's like the closest I can get. I almost did some sort of sports thing just to stay connected to athletes and people that were hungry. So I went through college. Towards the end, I had a pretty decent GPA, and they were like, hey, you should apply to grad school. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should. So I applied to grad school and got a small scholarship. And I was like, hell, I guess now I have to go to grad school. I mean, it's almost stupid for me not to go because they're just handing it to me. So I did that, and it was delaying the gratification of me joining the Army. There was really no other branch that I was going to do just based on the incredible leadership I got as a child. So in grad school, I stumbled upon a guy who happened to be a Green Beret. And it was a profound moment in my life where I was like, what am I doing? This has just been such a waste of time. So it was very clear to me, hard pivot at that specific moment. I was literally chasing other dreams at the time. And I knew this is like this big calling for me. So I completely stopped what I was doing, finished up grad school, got my degree, and on the way out, like signed a contract, started onboarding into the military, and was like very fired up about the idea of going to do this at the highest level I could. So got into basic training. It was like this huge struggle for me because they basically looked at a piece of paper and they were like, oh, who's the guy with a master's degree? What an idiot. You can be in charge.
Yeah, right.
So it was good for me because I was immediately put in a leadership role that I didn't necessarily want to be in. But it was good because it helped me grow as a leader, like right off the bat. And I think that helped when I got to selection, which is inherently a terrible place. I remember just sitting around looking at the field of guys who were trying to be Green Berets and just being almost amazed by the quality of individuals around me. There was guys who had played in the NFL. There were people that played in Major League Baseball. There was people that had been in the Olympics. There were guys that came straight out of Wall Street, Ivy League college guys. And then there was like South Texas good old boys that came straight out of high school. And then there was me. So I was like, okay, listen, if these guys can come here, I've got to crush it. And I did. I was a little bit older. Let's see, I was 28 going through the course. So definitely on the older age for guys being Green Berets. I would say Green Berets of the military, the Green Berets are definitely older. I knew guys going through the course that were like 33. It's very common when you get to a special forces team. I would say the average age is like late 20s, early 30s, which is not indicative of the SEALs or really any other special operations unit. So that kind of helped poised me for success in the course. Graduated, showed up to my team as the very new guy. We immediately deployed to Afghanistan. I was our class valedictorian during my class. So I kind of showed up and I was like, yes, I'm going to do awesome things because I was our valedictorian and I'm so prepared for this. And then immediately got punched in the face with a bunch of stuff that I couldn't handle, deliberately done to me, and a bunch of new guy antics, once again, deliberately done. Yeah. And it was awesome. It was great because you kind of expect that and you almost anticipate it. We went straight to Afghanistan, and let me think about this. I was the least ranking Green Beret in the entire country in Afghanistan because I went straight through the course, didn't recycle anything, and I was just very low ranking. Yeah. A lot of people that go through the Green Beret course were in the military before, so they had some rank. I did not. So when we get there, granted, I'm 28 years old. I've got a master's degree. I was our valedictorian, so I've kind of got it together. But still, I'm very new to the Army. Like, I'm still very new to the military. So let's see, Donald Trump was the president. He had just onboarded. It was early 2017. We had a very specific mission that we were doing in Afghanistan. And when he came in, as you can imagine, the cabinet switched as well. So the policy from the then incoming Secretary of Defense literally switched overnight. And it's an interesting dichotomy when you're deployed in Afghanistan in a war-torn area and the cabinet switch, not even really necessarily the president's, but when the cabinet switch, it's a very impactful thing because policies change overnight. And so he, in secret, brought in Green Beret advisors at the highest level to the Pentagon and asked about the mission and what we were going to be doing in the future. And I had this incredible leader who like completely changed my life. And he came back and he said, hey, all right, man, I know we've been doing this mission where we're going to go after the Taliban, but now we're going to pivot and we're going to go after ISIS because that's what they want us to do. And we know where they are. So we went into the Eastern Afghanistan specifically looking for ISIS, which we had never done because that wasn't our mission. And we found ourselves in this epic 23-day battle in a random village that was super intense. We lost a good friend of mine in the fight. I took an RPG and was subsequently injured. We responded with the Moab bomb, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
And it was just an intense period. I was definitely messed up. I didn't know how bad my injuries were. We got back stateside. I did quite a few surgeries. Things started to manifest. And they were like, listen, Zach, after my fourth surgery, like, I don't see a good future for this for you. I think that you got to understand that you're probably not going to be a Green Beret anymore. And I was a very surface level Green Beret because I hadn't spent a lot of time in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an interesting dichotomy for me because the life cycle of graduating, being the number one guy, coming in, meeting all these incredible people, doing this incredible mission, and then turning around, getting injured, taking an RPG, and then being told that you're done is like this incredible moment in my life where I was just having to be so flexible. And I think from a leadership standpoint, I had these great individuals around me that were just constantly telling me to be agile and to be mobile and to be able to just switch gears and change things up. And that's the keys to success. And it's very indicative during the entire course. So that's exactly what I did. I just decided that it was time to completely pivot my mindset and go do what's the best thing in the future. And so I think that overwhelmingly the story that I had during this time period is that you have to have the ability to adjust. Your goals, everything in this world can be taken from you immediately. What you think is your reality in the future can be shifted. And you have to be, and it's almost your duty to be the type of individual that can adjust on the fly and actually pivot your mindset completely. If you ask a Green Beret candidate, what's the number one goal in his life? You ask me when I was in the course, what's the number one goal in your life? It's to become a Green Beret. So when you find yourself in any derivative of that and somebody's saying, you're not going to be a Green Beret, now what's your number one goal? You got to just change your mindset.
Yeah, that can be, I think of like professional athletes, right? You hear stories of that all the time where their number one goal, I'm sure for a very long time, was to become, whether it's the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, once that's gone, and a lot of times it's just kind of taken away like that, right? Which sounds like it was very similar for you. A lot of people struggle with that, but it sounds like you actually leaned on all the training that you had been given and received going through selection and becoming a Green Beret to help you through that actually probably fairly quickly. Is that accurate, or did you struggle with that? What was that experience like?
I would say that there's definitely a fracture of identity crisis because you're just literally pivoting who you are in your constitution. But if you just, at the micro level, if you just analyze that, the reason you're being successful is because you're inherently good at singularly focusing on one thing. It doesn't even matter what that one thing is. If that's being a Green Beret, fine, go crush it. If that's being an amazing soldier while you're deployed, perfect, go do it. If that's being a great dad, okay, absolutely dominate that. If that's transitioning out of the military because you can no longer serve your country because that's what's happened, fine, you need to be great at doing that. And once I had that realization, frankly, because of one of my leaders said, Zach, you've been doing this forever. You've been pivoting your life since you were born and making these adjustments. And if anything, you're more well-suited to do it right now than you've ever been because of the last year of your life, the last few years. So it was a good, interesting conversation that I had with him. And after that, it was like, okay, I've just got to make this my number one goal, is to now switch into a new individual. I don't even know who that person's going to be, but he's got to be great at something. So you just got to move forward and completely put the past behind you and just switch. And that can be done with the same mentality of leaving pro sports or leaving amateur sports or leaving high school, even leaving your girlfriend. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
You take that win and you can produce that in any level and anything.
Yeah. So you've referenced a few times, like just some of the great leaders that you've had experience with, whether it was in the military or in your life, who are one or two, like you would consider championship leaders, just excellent leaders, highest level leaders that have really impacted you. And maybe what are some of the biggest characteristics, traits, or things that you've taken from them to help you as a leader, as a co-founder and owner of these companies that you're now involved with?
Yeah, I think that early on in my Afghanistan deployment, I was presented with a sticky situation, which we were in a spot where it was literally lives mattered and were inevitably taken. And there was a a decision point where the answer was either left or right. Literally, it was
Mm-hmm.
left or right. And the leader of my team, who is this very humbled individual, graduated from West Point and has done amazing things for our country that I can't even speak of,
Yeah.
looked at me, and I was the most junior person in the country. And he looked at me because I was standing beside him, and he kind of knows that, like, I wasn't some 20-year-old kid. I've kind of been around the block, just not in the military. And he goes, Zach, what do you think? And like, he meant it. And he looked at me and he was like, I want to know your perspective right now on this. He may not take my opinion, but he needs to know what someone that's not him is seeing. And I think sometimes in business, people don't do that. But I will remember that moment forever because it mattered. And I gave him an idea that I thought he inevitably went with that one. But he did that so many times, all the time. He was constantly asking for questions and like responses and people's opinions. And most of the time he took it, some of the times he didn't, but it wasn't about individual personal beliefs, or it wasn't intimate. It was strictly a business case. It was, hey, you guys present some opinions to me. I want to know like what your mind sees that mine doesn't. I'm going to make the best decision and we're going to move forward. And it doesn't matter what I choose. Y'all are all behind it, period. And I think that moment for me was where it crystallized that that's the kind of leader you have to be in order for teams below you to be successful. We're not even necessarily talking about mentoring. We're talking about high-level organizations and just being strategic. So that's the mindset I've shifted into Elite Meat, into now Operators Association, and any of the employees that are working underneath me. It's a constant understanding that you probably see things different than me, and I'm not going to be the guy that pretends like I know more than you. Because if you're the director of recruiting for Elite Meat, which we have one, awesome guy, you know more about what's going on in recruiting than I do. And you should. I shouldn't know more than you. That's how it's supposed to be laid out. So I think that overarching or upside down tree is kind of how it works. And then you're leaning on them for advice. It's literally how it works. You're not giving them advice. They're giving you advice. And I think that I've modeled that from that one individual in that one situation deployed in Afghanistan. And I'll take that in any organization that I ever run. And if you don't have the individuals that can provide that, then you just get rid of them.
Yeah, when you say like you literally had to take a left or a right, I asked that question just about every time. I'm like, critical moments, critical decisions, like massive turning points, where there's literally you either go left and your life is considerably different than it is today, or you choose to go right. And number one, in that moment, like lives are on the line, like you said. I mean, just all of the highest stakes possible. And for your leader to come and just have that, just be secure in who he is and just realize who he's surrounded with. I mean, elite group, Green Berets. I mean, you just recognize that, man, hey, I got this incredible team. Why would I not ask? And like you said it multiple times, like it didn't mean that was what he was going to go with, but he was collecting all the information so that he could make the best possible decision, I would imagine, in the fastest amount of time or the shortest amount of time, to make sure that you guys were successful.
Yeah, and I would say that model doesn't work if the person underneath you, it can't provide some level of input. If you can't trust him in understanding something differently than you, then he's not a good fit. And then this whole idea of you asking them and you don't trust him, if you can't trust that person that you're asking, then your duty as the leader is to put somebody in that spot that can. And that's done very quickly on a Green Beret team. If you're not providing worth and you're not providing value and you're not contributing, even if we don't like your ideas, if you're not constantly pushing the envelope and really understanding what your job is and telling other people how it should be, then you're out. And I think that that's a great model to have in any leadership position. Sometimes new leaders are really hesitant to remove people, and it has to happen quick. And I saw it so often on a Green Beret team. People's stuff would just literally be in the hallway, not because of some ambiguous decision point, but because they couldn't do their job effectively and they couldn't portray that. And as the leader, the same person that's literally asking me what I think about some decision point that's like really impactful to lives and to his position, it's his job to make that decision. He wants everyone to know that he values their opinion and he needs them to not be scared to give it because he has to think outside the box. But if you can't trust that person, then it's on you as a leader to get him out of there immediately. It's toxic. And that's challenging. That's almost more challenging.
I bet. Yeah. And I mean, you have to know your people too, right? I mean, you have to know them in order to be able to be willing to rely on them or lean on them in those moments as well. So we'll talk, about Elite Meat and what that is and how that came about as you transitioned out.
Yeah, so Elite Meat's a 501c3 nonprofit. What we do is we assist transitioning special operators, so Navy SEALs, Green Berets, anybody that falls under special operations, and then also fighter pilots as they transition out of the military into business specifically. So what we do is we give them access to very hard to find positions in business. So if you're leaving the Green Beret team and you want to go do contracting or some military, or you want to go to police work or FBI, that's not what we do. But if you want to go into business, some derivative of operations, private equity, finance, blue collar, construction worker, supervisor, things like that, you're going to come to Elite Meat because we've got those connections. So really it started a few years back with a friend of mine from SEAL Team 2 and an investment banker. They just connected because he knew friends that needed jobs, and the investment banker wanted to hire guys that were winners. Doesn't matter what your background is. We want you to come in and just be a winner. And it was a good fit, and this thing exploded. I was a Wave 2 guy that came on as they were expanding and they needed help with some processes. It was really a startup, still really is a startup, to be honest with you. I think you're a startup for 8 years before you can move out of that, just because you've got rapid growth. And so that's exactly how it worked out. And it was a great fit for me. I was still in the military. I was actually going through all my surgeries. They got 6 surgeries in 2018, and I was onboarded into Elite Meat and came in. I was like, hey, I love this organization. This is great. Let me dive in and start assisting at a high level. So came in, started running ops. And subsequently at the end of my time in the military, they were like, you can't leave now. Like, you can't go find this great job that's coming across your desk. So now as the COO role, I've been doing that since January, I think, of this year. And Elite Meat's only 3 years old. I think rapid growth in 2019. We found a niche in all these firms that want to hire amazing talent. We've got about 750 members right now that are transitioning and looking for these positions. And for the most part, we hire them very quickly because guys want to access them, and we don't have anything like that. We got pretty connected when to pro sports this year. We were invited to be the philanthropic partner to one of the largest NFL owner conferences of the year. And because of that, we met a lot of owners from different sports organizations, and they were just blown away by not only the stories, but the idea that they can find people to fit into their organization that already have a proven track record of winning. Yeah. So because of that, we've had some expansion in terms of our organization and our professional network. Last week, we were just at the World Trade Center for a week-long conference where we brought in 40 plus of our members and over 400 professionals. And it was really epic because you sit in a room and you've got 40 plus Green Berets, operators, and then fighter pilots as well that really joined because of 9/11. And we're sitting here in New York City at the World Trade Center. It was iconic. Yeah, wow. And a host of guys got jobs on the spot. So it was great. I think that Elite Meat provides value not only for the members, but to be honest, it provides value for me as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. What's the big vision? Talk about that a lot, right? Championship leaders. I like, I'm a football guy, so I'll talk. I think Bill Belichick or a Nick Saban, right? Just the best of the best at what they do in their industry, in their sport, and winning championships year after year, continuing to evolve. And to do that, you got to stay up and you got to stay ahead, which means they have to have this incredible vision, and it's a vision that's different than anyone else, right? To be able to see things that others can't, and then make those decisive decisions and execute on those. Like, what's the vision for Elite Meat, 3 to 5 years from now, and the impact that you really want to create and make?
Yeah, I think based on the numbers of our community, we've got 700 or so members right now, 750. And there's not that many individuals that are pivoting from the teams that are wanting to go into these roles. Okay. So we're deliberately lean. I think that, to be honest, that's probably around the numbers we're going to always have, because there's only so many people that are getting out and want to go get, say, their MBA or go into some derivative of business, and then finds Elite Meat and wants to go move forward with it. I would say if you're one of those individuals, you already know what Elite Meat is, and you're going to come because you've got a friend that's already successfully landed somewhere. Yep. So because of that, we will never have these massively large numbers where we access all of the military veterans or anything like that. That's not us. Mm-hmm. We're specifically for our community, and we're branded that way, and we'll stay that way. What we will do is we'll expand on the professional side. So 2019, for example, going to that NFL owners conference. Now we've got all these amazing speakers and individuals, and we're tied into pro sports, asked to come speak to the Patriots specifically about them and their transition, because they don't have any processes in place. And as you can imagine, in pro sports, if you're a guy who's in a professional sport and you're leaving and you're transitioning out, the structure and the formalities of coming out of an elite team are the same. It doesn't matter if you're an NFL player or you're an operator. Granted, your experience and the things that you've done are wildly different, but the idea that you're pivoting from something that's been elite and been camaraderie stricken, and now you're going to something different, is very similar. So we started seeing that this year. I think that I would just continue to see expansive growth in terms of the professionals that are included. Our events that we host every quarter are just getting bigger and bigger. We're getting more influential people speaking at each time. It's incredible to grow. I think our next event is going to be in Seattle, hosted by Amazon at their headquarters. And I anticipate upwards of 400 to 500 people with top caliber speakers as well. And I think that that's probably the recipe for growth for us, is just to continue to expand our professional network so that they can immediately grab our guys as they pivot out.
That's that's an interesting pivot, and as you're explaining it, it totally makes sense to make that transition to help out these professional athletes as well. What about Operators Association? Like, I'm really interested in that, and how did that come about? Yeah, what made you decide to open that up, create that? Was it something from like that you lacked coming in and wish that you had yourself, or where did that come from?
Yeah, I think in general, when I decided to pull the trigger and become a Green Beret, there wasn't access to any of this stuff in terms of the internet and really things. There was YouTube videos were out, but it wasn't nearly the access that we have today. So a lot of the questions that I had, I was just kind of like, oh, we'll figure it out. This is what I want to do, so I'm just going to go. And as my social media presence began to expand, which was deliberate to raise awareness for Elite Meet, I started finding these individuals who were constantly sending me messages. Hey, Zach, just signed a Green Beret contract. I've got X and Y, Z questions. And inherently, off the cuff, I answered literally every single one of them, because that's just like in my heart, in my core. I think it's important to note that if you're a Green Beret, your job isn't necessarily strictly direct action missions. It's hearts and minds when you're in these foreign countries, and collectively building rapport and helping them really defeat an oppressive regime. That's the number one thing that we do. And granted, if it's not hearts and minds, then it's two to the heart and one to the mind. But it's really an interesting paradigm when you talk about mentorship for guys who are coming in. So finally, after answering thousands of messages in individual cases and having video calls with these guys that were really intrigued, I mean, it's America's best, in my opinion, that want to go do this.
Yeah.
It's a hard endeavor to jump in. I decided with my co-founder, who's the CEO of Elite Meet, that we should just slap an organization on this and like kind of wrap this up and like collect this talent pool that's coming in and sort of put them under our wing and put some structure to it and give them the information that they're just constantly asking us for. And rapidly, within a number of months, we have over 600 and something members, I think almost 700 members that are coming in boarding. It's a constant revolution, just like Elite Meet. And we're giving them guidance and information that they can't find anywhere else. And what's more important, they're connecting with guys that are in the same class as them as they go in.
Yeah.
So we've got this pool of individuals that are collectively together in this chat room now. And they're just pinging ideas off of each other. They're collecting themselves together for workouts. And it's now this movement where, hey, before you go become a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL, well, you come to Operators Association. Not only are you going to get tips, great stories, and really the mindset that you need, but you're also going to find people that you're going to run into in a few weeks when you go to basic training because they're in your class.
That's awesome. So you said how many people?
It's like right at 650-ish, somewhere in there.
650. Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, that's cool. So has that, you're really pouring into other people. You're really, kind of like this servant leader is what I'm hearing. And has that been something that's always been important to you? Is that something that was like modeled to you from a young age, from family members or the people that you knew, or, where does that come from? Because that's not one that is inherently present for everyone.
Yeah, it really didn't. I didn't have individuals around me that were constantly stressing that. I didn't really grow up thinking that I was going to be in a servant leadership role. it just sort of manifested. Life's so long and you change so many times in your lives. We go back full circle to pivoting well and understanding your purpose and the next thing you want to do. If you're leaving from a Green Beret team and you've got to figure out something that fits for you, you kind of try a bunch of things until something sticks and you're having fun with it. And it could be the same for leaving pro sports. It could be the same for leaving a job. You just try something else that you think is fun, that you enjoy. And then if it works and you get to make a living with it, then honestly, you've struck gold, because that's exactly what happened to me. I just got out and I was like, okay, well, let's go to Elite Meet and start helping out guys. And let's buy in on this philosophy and let's just continue moving and let's grow this thing as big as we can. And it's exactly what happened, and it worked. And I think that for me, it was important to stay connected to the individuals in the community, because to be frank, I didn't want to leave. That hand was really dealt to me very early on. I mean, I'm a very surface level Green Beret. And the fact that now I can see these individuals coming out that have been 20 plus years in the Green Beret teams, done like all these incredible things, and they're having issues finding employment. I think that's what stuck with me. I look in the room, specifically in the World Trade Center, and I look out and I'm hosting this event and kind of, giving introductions and all these panelists. And we've got 40 special ops members in the field that are listening. And I look at them and I'm just like, wow, I know how big of a deal you guys are. Mm-hmm. These guys have done incredible things that I couldn't even touch. And it's just so awesome that I can assist them in the next step and move forward. And once you get that, everything else is pretty much downhill, because you're just so fired up to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I love it, man. That's so awesome. What are one or two things, as we wrap this up here, like what are one or two things that you could leave with the listeners that they could just take and really put into play for themselves, like today, and just move themselves forward in life?
Yeah, I think that just going with the narrative that we've discussed, when you pivot, and it can be small pivots, it can be large pivots, it can be as big as being a Green Beret and then not being a big Green Beret, or it can be as small as going from high school to college, or leaving your job, leaving your significant other. Whenever you do it, you've got to understand that it's a mental shift, and you've just got to focus on the next thing. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be as small as moving houses. It could be anything in the world. It doesn't matter. But if you're shifting your mindset from one to the other, it's got to be a very deliberate right turn, and then shamelessly forgetting what was in the past and focus on nothing else but succeeding in what's in front of you. And that's it. Don't let any doubt creep in. Don't go back to the left side of the turn. You've got to go down this path because you took a right. And you have to be consistently knowing that you've got to do the best at it. So that pivot is really the important portion. If you can change your mind to shift between all these different things and all these different journeys in life, you'll be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. What are a few ways that we can find out more about you, Elite Meet, Operators Association, for those that are interested in that? Like, how can we follow you? And
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Zach Hughes, ZACKHUGHES. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram at Zach Hughes1, Facebook as well. I think Elite Meet, elitemeet.us. That's ELITEMEET.us. And then we've got the same pages. We've got a LinkedIn page. We've got an Instagram page. We've got a Facebook page. And then Operators Association is the same thing. It's literally operatorsAssociation.com for the website. And then the same for LinkedIn, Instagram. We don't have a Facebook for that.
Okay. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, we'll get those linked up in the show notes. And just thank you. Appreciate you taking some time to be on the show.
Yeah, Coach, I appreciate it. Listen, the movement you've got is great. I listened to a few of your podcasts. I think it's epic what you're doing. If I can ever make any connections for you, for anybody that you think would be valuable, don't hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you.